Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. So Jennifer, welcome to today's episode. And for the listeners, why I get excited about these types of interviews is when I actually make a true, genuine, and authentic connection on my favorite platform, LinkedIn, which is how Jennifer and I first connected. We hopped on in a discovery Zoom, as we both always do, using that platform and how I always teach you guys to. And again, we both live in the same world of connecting and collaborating and creating. And she had a podcast and, I had a podcast, and we said, let's do a pod swap. And I was grateful enough and honored to be on her podcast. And now here she is on mine. So number one, Jennifer, welcome to today's episode. And number two, for those that are not familiar with you and your work, tell the audience a little about you and what you do. But most importantly, the question they love hearing answered is the moment in your career where your entrepreneurial spark was lit.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. I'm really thrilled to be here. Fast friends we have become off of the wonderful platform of LinkedIn. So my name is Jennifer Neal, and I'm the owner and founder of an agency in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, called Truth and Dare. We're 21 years old now. And we started out traditionally as a branding and design firm, and then very quickly pivoted into the digital space and have a little bit reverted back into really strong brand strategy work, because we feel that marketing is pretty much useless if it's not based in a strong brand foundation. So that's what we do. I love the question about how I became an entrepreneur. I worked for an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, from about the age of 22 to 32. And I worked solely for her as a recruiter. And I did very well working for her. At 29 years of age, I was making six figures. I had been given a car by them. They were a husband and wife team. But she was ruthless, a ruthless female entrepreneur that had no children. And when I became pregnant with my first child, I knew that somebody was going to lose. Either my work was going to lose or my child was going to lose. And so I decided to quit my job, cold turkey. And that was the beginning of my career. So I launched out into the design world with my then husband, and he was a graphic designer, and I had sales and business development skills. And that was the beginning of, at that time it was called K9 Design. And then we morphed into Truth and Dare.
And the interesting thing is sometimes entrepreneurship happens in a moment where you have to just burn the boats. And for me, my story with my father's unfortunate incarceration when I was a teenager kind of thrusted me into that adult role of taking over our family business. But looking back, 23 years later for me, 21 years later for you, we would want it no other way, because to progress the way that we've had through all the businesses that we've run, everything had to happen from that moment. You needed that ruthless entrepreneurial boss to kick you out of the nest after you actually created your own family. Much like me, when I realized I wanted more time freedom, I wanted more monetary freedom, I wanted more flexibility, because as a trainer, you're basically on the clock all the time. The hours that you book are the hours that you make money, and that's not the case anymore. So when people hear that you burn the boats, like literally cold turkey, because everyone is waiting for that quote unquote perfect time, the right time to burn the boats, push the chips all in, let's do this. And you were basically thrusted into that, as was I. What was the biggest lesson that you learned by putting you first and putting your family first instead of your career after really stepping into that and going out on your own?
I think I've had to do it over and over again. And I think it's never easy. Even I'm 51 this year. I don't think it's ever easy, no matter how old you are and how many times it happens. There's a little voice inside of us, and we all have it. And it will tap you on the shoulder, and it will tap you on the shoulder, and it will tap you on the shoulder. And then at some point it comes and it slams you in the side of the head. And if we would just listen to that little voice, and I'm guilty of it, if we would listen to it earlier, we would make decisions faster, because the decision is always the right one. But I really do think sometimes it takes a lot of pushing and prodding to get us to that point. I will say though, and I have done this, even though I left that, 6-figure salary, I had always been a saver. And so I used to put my commissions checks into a savings account, because I knew that I could live, not wildly, but I could live on my salary. And so when I left that job, I had $30,000 in an account, which is not an insignificant amount of money when you're 20, 30 years old. And I wouldn't have been able to survive on that, given I had, children now and a mortgage. But for some reason, that safety net was enough for me to say, listen, if everything goes to the shits, can I say that? You've got 30 grand that you can tap into until you can get it going again. And I'm happy to say I never needed it. And then I rolled it, easier and easier into more long-term investments. So I'm a big believer in having a bit of a safety net if you're going to make a big move like that, or at least have a backup plan as to what the next move is going to look like. So those are a couple of things that I would say that I used in my own life that kind of helped me with that.
Having a plan B is so, so important, because again, part of my story is a friend of mine said to me, if you couldn't train, or if you were physically unable to perform your service, how would you then make money? And I think no one ever puts themselves in that situation where they're facing their demise or the ability they do not have to make money. And I think everyone, the average millionaire has 4 to 6 streams of income. So if you're finding yourself with only one stream, then you're really putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be doing more harm than good. So what do you think was the biggest struggle going out on your own? What was the biggest challenge that you faced?
Back then, I just figured that I could do it. I was completely invincible at that age. This year, I was faced with it again, and it was with a partnership that was supposed to go a particular way, and it wasn't going that way, and I had to pivot. I think the biggest struggle this year was, can I actually do it? Can I actually do this thing and leave this situation and find another one, and will it be okay? It's always the will it be okay. And the one thing that I've come to really believe in, and it's taken me years to do this, is if you put the tiniest of thoughts out there, you even just think it in your head. I had often said at some point, I'll have a holding company, and I'll have retail investments. I'm going to be, real estate investor. I will have multiple streams of income, not knowing where they were going to come from, but they come. And the day that I closed the door on that one partnership, the next day another one opened up that was much healthier, much smarter, and much more aligned with all of those other big dreams that I wanted. So I think the struggle is in believing in ourselves and having the faith to take the step. One of my favorite metaphors is when you're driving down the highway at night and you can't see a thing, but your headlights are giving you enough light to be able to drive just that next, whatever it is, kilometer, whatever that is, or mile. You have to trust that there will be another set of lights and another set of lights. You will always be guided to that next step. But I think the struggle is in believing in ourselves.
Belief in one's self is something that a lot of people do struggle with, because we talk about the negative self-talk. We talk about not loving on ourselves enough, giving to everyone else instead of giving to ourselves first. Self-care is a huge aspect of succeeding, not just in entrepreneurship, but succeeding in life. And I really feel entrepreneurs struggle with this a lot, because entrepreneurship doesn't look like anything. When you have these businesses, it's, again, they're invisible, they're online, or they're out of our own creation, out of our own mind. And you got to create balance. You have to create boundaries. You have to create organization and structure to what you do. And if you allow any of those negative thoughts to continually flow between the 6 inches between your ears, it's going to be the demise not only of your business, but it's going to be the demise of your entrepreneurial ventures, because entrepreneurship is a muscle. You have to work it every single day. And the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is that we have the ability to create whatever we want.
Yeah.
And most businesses, like, I mean, Jennifer and myself, we've created businesses that are built on the backs of helping other people, solving other people's problems by us solving the problems for ourselves first. And that's the beauty of having any coaching or consulting or marketing firm, is that, people come to us because they have a problem and they want it solved, and they want it done the right way the first time. And here's the thing. Does every single entrepreneur need to hire a coach or need to hire a marketing firm? In my opinion, I feel if you're really going to be serious, you do want a marketing team. You should hire some sort of business strategist and coach. You don't have to. There's people that have made it without it. I believe in it. I heavily invest in the people that I surround myself with, whether it's coaches or masterminds or onboarding new team members. It's so important. So, I have a very, very diverse listening group of this podcast, all entrepreneur based. But what's the best piece of advice that you would give the listener that is really struggling in their entrepreneurial endeavor? They have those thoughts that no one wants what I have. I'm not good enough. I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. Because, Jennifer, you and I both know those are called stories. They don't exist. You're making them up. But as Earl Nightingale says, what you think about most often is what you will become. So if you're thinking that you're not going to do this, you're not good enough, all those things, it will come to fruition. So what's your advice to that person?
I don't think the struggle ever ends. So if there's anyone out there that thinks that the struggle is I'm going to have to struggle for a year and then it's over. I don't think the struggle ever ends. COVID's a perfect example of that. We've all had to reinvent ourselves and look at our businesses. And, we lost a massive client in March that was in the travel industry because travel ceased to exist. So the struggle never ends. Building the resilience is the key piece. And resilience comes in a lot of ways. I'm a big believer in yoga and meditation. It's changed my life. I was a total type A prior. Sometimes I feel like I lost my edge a little bit because it mellowed me out so much. But I think clearer, I think smarter, and I think less reactionarily. Is that a word? I think in a less reactive way now, because I really do think it's magic. So I'm a big believer in that. I also think, and you said it a few times, that word enough. We're not enough. I don't have enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not fit enough. I'm not rich enough. I don't have enough money to build this brand. I cannot remember who I picked this up from. She's a UK thought leader, and she said that word enough is at the basis of absolutely every problem that we struggle with. And she suggested this: set a reminder at 9 o'clock and at 5 o'clock every day. And it just says you are enough. And it comes up at 5 and it's at 9 in the morning and at 5 o'clock at night on my phone, on my watch, on my computer. And at first it feels really awkward. You're like, you know, at first it just doesn't sit well with you. But when it comes up every day, twice a day, you start to look at it and you say, yeah, I'm enough. I can do this. You know, I remember going to as simple as a cocktail party, last minute cocktail party. Jennifer, can you come for drinks? And my first thought was, I don't have a bottle of wine. I don't have a hostess gift. Why is it that I couldn't just show up being me without trappings and be enough for that cocktail party? So that whole idea of being enough, it goes way beyond business. It goes to those tiny little things that we do every day. But if you don't think it's going to impact your business or the way you approach entrepreneurialism, I just think it's a game changer.
I couldn't agree more. So we almost had the opposite type of personality trait. So, I mean, I'm a very warm, loving, giving person, but I was always very passive in the sense that my old business coach says that I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Me too.
And he said that basically I walked around, and I pardon the explicit statement, but he says, Scott, you're walking around with this stamp on your forehead that says fucking nice guy. And when he said that to me, it really turned the mirror around. I'm like, you know what? I can be nice, but I should also be respected. And I remember that I always used to classify myself as this, you know, this just emotional and I'm an emotional person, but I remember I was at a personal development event, and, you know, the person who was heading the event wanted us to watch a video that was classifying different color traits. So you have the reds, you know, they're not dictators, but they're very stern and forward and very stringent, very systematic. And then you had the blues, which were the, you know, the emotional ones, you know, the high highs, lows, lows. Then you had the yellows, which were the fun ones, like the life of the party, like, you know, carefree, you know, just living La Vida Loca. And then you had the whites, which were like the Mother Teresa's, the peaceful, the calm ones that, you know, the quiet power. And what you do is you break off into groups, and you basically have a little group discussion, and you tell people what you think you are. And then the group tells you who you actually are, because, you know, we always see ourselves a little bit different the way that other people see us. And then the next morning you wake up, and then they have different lays, like when you go to Hawaii, and that you go to the color lay that you want, whether it's, you know, red, blue, yellow, or blue, yellow, white, and red, and you put it on and you sit with your group of quote unquote people. So, and I did this for about 4 years, and the first 3 years, blue every single time. I'm like, that is me. So this 1 year, and this was, you know, I would say this was about 2 or 3 years ago when I really started stepping into my power and honestly becoming more confident in what I provided. And I remember I was out to dinner with my friends, and I turned to my friend Jen. I'm like, you know what? I still think I'm a blue. And she goes, are you kidding me? She goes, you are an effing red all the way. And I'm like, wow. And she goes, that's not a bad thing. She goes, I've seen you grow, and I've never seen you more confident and more yourself ever than I have in the last couple of years. And I'm like, you know what? I am an effing red. You're right. And but again, I'm like you. I do guided meditation every night before I go to bed. Nancy and I listen to the same one. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. It's a money mindset meditation. We work out every single morning. That's our Menlo Park. That's where we go to kind of clear our minds. And it really helps. And I have reminders on my phone that one comes up and says, do not feed into the negativity of others. One says, let go of the negatives. So it's, and again, I look at the reminders, and it's a good reality check for me. So how much has personal development, because again, the more personally developed you become, obviously the more that you can give to others. How much has personal development played a role, not only for you personally, but for you professionally?
Massive, massive. I was always a professional development addict. I've just always had that inkling for wanting to constantly know. But the personal piece, I mean, I was one of those people that thought journaling was for losers. You know, like I couldn't understand journaling. I didn't understand meditation. I didn't understand why people would do what I thought was kind of woo woo, you know? And then, I think you have to go through some really, really tough times. I, ended up having to leave my marriage of 25 years. And that's really hard stuff. So stuff like that, they always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And you can try and force personal development on people, but until they are ready for it, they will not accept it. It's been a massive game changer. I'm completely addicted to it. I think that's my next career as an entrepreneur, is doing something in that space and in the space of law of attraction, because I truly, truly believe in the law of attraction. But it's everything. It's the reason why I took a leap of faith on, building a real estate portfolio. It's the reason why I'm building another agency right now during a downturn. It's the reason why, it's the reason for everything. Because every morning, I believe you have to practice that every morning. I get up at 5, I read, write, meditate. I do yoga every day. I walk 10,000 steps every day. And I practice affirmations every day. And it works. So, it's everything.
Yeah, it is, when you're constantly in learning mode. And again, think about, like, as kids, teenagers, all we're doing is learning, studying, learning new things. And then you get into this 9 to 5 mentality and you stop learning everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I love audiobooks. I love reading books. I love listening to podcasts. I'm always knowledge cramming something.
Yeah.
And I'll openly say, I go back and I listen to my own podcast, not to listen to me. I love re-listening to my guests. Because, when you're in the flow of the conversation, yes, you're hearing it, but you may have forgotten something they have said. And I love going back and listening to everyone's amazing story and things that they needed to do. We're all a bright light.
Yeah.
Some people are just choosing to let that light shine, and others are allowing other people to dim that light, which you should never do.
Yeah.
So tell the audience, who are the types of clients that you serve? The person that's listening to this that you feel would most benefit from what you're doing now. What does that client look like, and where are they struggling most?
We have worked with multinational companies over the years. We've worked with Sotheby's, we've worked with American Express, we've worked with really big companies. But in my opinion, they're not the companies that need us. They've got massive marketing departments, they've got massive marketing budgets, and that's why we did a complete pivot towards entrepreneurs. And to me, an entrepreneur is not necessarily someone that has risked it all to build their own business. To me, an entrepreneur is someone that might be working within a not-for-profit, but has that spirit of, what I call a renegade, someone that is just not prepared to put up with the status quo and wants to take that next leap, but isn't sure how. And the other great client for us is someone that has a ton of competition and thinks that the world is their competition. When you have a really strong brand strategy, you eliminate all competition. So, those are our clients, and we have multiple ways to serve them. But I'm really very passionate about entrepreneurs because, let's face it, like, there was no American Express if someone one day didn't just say, I have an idea. What if we did this? But now it's American Express. It all starts with one person or maybe 2 people over dinner saying, I think we see a gap in the marketplace. And they're our warriors. They're our champions. They're going out there and putting a stake in the ground before anybody else does. And because we're all unique, there's a uniqueness to every business. And that's what I get excited about, is tapping into that and distilling that.
I just love the term renegade. You gotta take those chances. But you said two big things is, competition. And you and I discussed, off air, is the teachings of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, which teaches you to live in a world of collaboration and creation instead of a world of competition and comparison. And again, when you do have a good marketing strategy, there is no competitions. There's just you.
That's right.
And that's what I love so much. And again, there are a ton of people in this world. So for anyone to think that they can't grow a multiple 6, multiple 7, multiple 8-figure business, you're just kidding yourself. Absolutely. I always go back to the story of Roger Bannister, who was the first person to ever run a sub 4-minute mile. Everyone said it was impossible. Doctors told him literally that if you try to do this, your heart will explode and you will die. But he didn't believe that story. And he did it, and he proved the concept. And then I think 12 or 13 other people over the next 2 or 3 years did it as well. But it just goes to show you that someone has to go first.
Yeah.
Something else that you said is that, American Express just was an idea. Earl Nightingale says ideas are free. So an exercise that he has people through, he wrote a great book called The Strangest Secret, and there's also a great audio.
Yeah, read it.
And he says on an index card, write down 1 to 3 new ideas every single day. Every day, just take time and write an idea, 2 or 3. At the end of the year, you'll have between 400 and 1,000 new ideas. And he goes, I can guarantee you one of them will become a successful business.
Yeah. Or you'll execute on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So before we wind down to my final question, this has been so amazing. And I know so many people are going to take so many amazing things away from it. How can people find more about you and your agency or connect with you online?
Well, the best place is our website, which is truthanddare.ca. I'm on LinkedIn, Jennifer Neal. I'm on Instagram, Jennifer Neal. The agency is _truth_and_dare on Instagram. We're on all the platforms, and I'm very, very, very active on LinkedIn. I put up 2 videos a week minimum, and I post every day. So there's lots of content out there.
Awesome. And all of those pieces of information will be in the show notes, so you guys can go and connect with Jennifer. I highly, highly suggest it. I've seen her videos. It's phenomenal. It's all about educating, informing, and leaving people better. So number one, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. And final question before we sign off is, what does success truly mean to you?
I'm still working on that one, but I really do think that success for me is still being able to remind myself that I'm happiest in the simplest of things, regardless of whatever else happens. I'm happiest in my kitchen. I'm happiest cooking, not necessarily at a fancy restaurant. I'm happiest gardening. It's those journaling, writing, reading. It's those simple pleasures. That is success for me. And I think if we can find happiness in little things as we build our businesses, we just become, happier anyway, because the success wasn't based on the growth necessarily of the business. It was based on the things that were really too important to us anyway. That's success for me.
Sometimes the simple things are the most important things, and they're the ones that matter most. And I can completely agree with you. It's not about the make or model of our cars. It's not the size of our house or our bank accounts. It's really enjoying the things that we enjoy the most in our lives. So Jennifer, again, thank you so much for being here. Truly grateful for you and our continued friendship. And I know my listeners are going to get so much from this. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
So as always, guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, definitely leave a rating and review. Let us know what you took away that was most powerful for you, that moved that needle forward from this episode. So again, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.